This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. From the very beginning of this pandemic that we are facing and have faced for the past almost 2 years, from the very beginning, Republicans have politicized this. They took their lead from their leader, Donald Trump, in minimizing the then possible impacts of what we could be facing, and into the several surges we've experienced, they have not taken it seriously. To the detriment of American lives, they have not taken it seriously. I talk a lot about the difference between policy disagreements and things that actually take the lives of American citizens. If you want to have a disagreement about how much we spend on infrastructure and the rebuilding of our infrastructure, have at it. But when we're talking about actual American lives, hundreds of thousands of American lives, it's an entirely different situation. And Republican governors, in the absence of Donald Trump, are now continuing their assault on Americans. Yesterday, Sunday, on Chris Wallace's show on Fox News Sunday, Governor Pete Ricketts from Nebraska took to the airways. He is a lesser-known governor. He doesn't have the name recognition of a Ron DeSantis or a Greg Abbott or some of these other idiot Republicans, but he is just as dangerous. His state is now experiencing a massive spike, hundreds of percent in increase in daily infections. The hospital rates are rising in Nebraska. So much so that when you go to the New York Times to see what is happening in Nebraska, weird. They're no longer even compiling their data. They're not even sharing their numbers. I want to share a little bit about this, a very short portion of this interview, because it is illuminating as to where Republicans are and what they're willing to sacrifice, scratch that, who they're willing to sacrifice in the name of owning the libs. Watch this.
I want to start with something that you said this week about President Biden's new vaccine mandates. Here you are, sir.
The president's forgotten we live in America. He thinks we live in the Soviet Union. And the hypocrisy of this is just unbelievable.
Governor, what's so objectionable about Biden's vaccine mandates, and what are you going to do about it?
Well, first of all, we have been encouraging people to get vaccinated. We've been providing information and encouraging people to reach out to their neighbors because vaccines work and they will help people. But it should be a personal health care choice. This is not something that the government should mandate, and somebody shouldn't have to make the choice between keeping their job and getting a jab in the arm. I mean, it's just wrong. I've talked to people, a number of people who have told me if they make me take the vaccine, I'm just going to be fired. I'm not going to do it.
But you say it's a personal choice. In fact, to attend school in your state of Nebraska, children must be vaccinated against a number of diseases. Let me put them up on the screen. They must be vaccinated against diphtheria, tetanus and pertussis, polio, measles, mumps and rubella, hepatitis B, and chickenpox. Why are those mandates that parents in your state must comply with and do comply with routinely, why is it that they're not so objectionable and such a violation of personal freedom, but Biden's vaccine mandates are?
Well, for all those that you just listed, there's a long history that parents have had the opportunity to see how those things have been implemented. And there's still a lot of people out there who don't know what to trust. And in fact, this is really an outcome of what the CDC has done, because they flip-flopped on so many issues, whether it's masks or whether you have to mask after you've been vaccinated and so forth. There's just a lot of people out there who don't know who to trust right now. And so by having the government force it on, you're not building the trust where we have the trust with those other vaccines. This is a process that's going to take time to bring people along, and that's why it should be a personal choice and not something mandated by the government.
But forgive me, sir, I'm old enough that I remember when the polio vaccine first came out, A lot of us, and certainly our parents, viewed it as a blessing, and immediately, I lived in New York State at that time, the state mandated that we all get the polio vaccine. So, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There is a new vaccine that Donald Trump was largely responsible for. It's been approved, full approval by the FDA. Again, if polio vaccine is okay for parents and they have to comply with it to send their kid to school, why not for a lot of people, not just kids, the vaccine for this disease?
Yeah, and I think this is very different from polio that has very devastating effects.
Very different than polio that has very devastating effects. Are you stupid, Pete Ricketts? Are you a moron? What is your major malfunction, dipshit? The coronavirus has taken 659,806 lives in America. Nearing 700,000 in the first deaths from the coronavirus came in late February, early March of 2020. Here we are in September of 2021, and almost 700,000 Americans have lost their lives. And Republicans don't care. They want to compare it to a very devastating polio, which has been eradicated. And I wonder why, possibly could it be that polio is no longer a problem in the United States and largely around the world? Why is that? Is it because of vaccines? Yeah. Let's go through just a smattering of these idiot quotes. For all those that you listed, there's a long history that parents have had the opportunity to see how they've been implemented, and there's still a lot of people out there who don't know who to trust or what to trust. So we're basing health policy during a global pandemic. We're basing that on the hesitancy of an uneducated populace that has decided to go in full tank to Republican conspiracies. They've bought in to the hesitancy that is baked in to the Republican messaging. And we're supposed to tiptoe around their feelings and we just don't know who to trust. Yeah, they trust the measles vaccine. They trust the polio vaccine. How many decades ago was that developed? 70, 80? Nearing 100 years? And the technology that they're all behind that was developed then, they're full on board with, but they've got a problem with brand new, highly advanced technological achievements in vaccines today. And because of that, because they're stupid, we're supposed to all adjust how the rest of the world operates because of the dumbness and the gullibility of Republicans. I don't think so. And then he also, by the way, if you notice, said because vaccines work and they will help people. People shouldn't have to make a choice between keeping their jobs and getting a jab in the arm. Why don't you choose to the language a little bit more carefully, Ricketts? A jab in the arm. You mean subject themselves to not even a modicum of pain to take a life-saving vaccine that will slow the spread, stop the spread. It's not even about saving your own life, Republicans. It's about not transmitting the disease to a loved one or a neighbor or someone you don't even know or care about. It's about stopping this pandemic. But because you'd rather own the libs, you're not into it. And then does not effectively answer the question about all these other vaccines that are required by his own administration, his own governments across the land. You can't enroll in school unless you're vaccinated for a litany of conditions. You can't have a job as a healthcare worker without a litany of vaccinations. You can't join the military. It is lore among people who went to boot camp. I went to Marine Corps boot camp. You're in long lines of people getting shots with shotguns, with vaccination guns, inoculating you. No one complained. It's expected because you're protecting yourself and others. And the reason that dipshit Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts doesn't have a problem with those is because they're not the culture war du jour. No one's up in arms about the polio vaccine or measles, mumps, and rubella. No one's up in arms about the chickenpox vaccine because it's not what's popular. If they really cared about this particular issue, and if they really felt the way they say they feel, there would be a push in conservative states all over the country to roll back vaccine mandates for polio and measles and mumps and rubella and chickenpox and all the others that you saw there. But there's not. And why is that? It's because they're liars and they're charlatans. And this is all about political posturing. This is about leading in chaos, creating chaos, and trying to put it on Joe Biden, who's doing his damnedest. But because of Republican governors and their low information electorate, they're making it impossible to effectively lead during the pandemic. Republicans cheered and wailed in approval when Donald Trump used to ramble on at rallies about developing a vaccine. It's all me, and look what I did. Oh, yay, we love it. And now that we have the vaccine that Donald Trump had a part in developing, now that we have it, I can't do it. My freedom. Morons who don't care about each other. And if they don't care about each other, how do you expect them to care about you? And that goes for Donald Trump to Republican governors all the way on down to the voters. Gullibility is our latest pandemic. Stupidity is yet another pandemic we face. Look at these numbers. It is a fourth wave where hospitalizations are peaking to a level that they were back in November when things were terrible. In my home state, I don't live there anymore, but in my home state, hospitalization rates are off the chart. There are no more beds. Children are now hospitalized with COVID. And these f***ing assholes don't care. Because of more freedom. They don't care about their freedom related to the polio vaccine or measles, mumps, rubella. They don't care about their freedom there. They care about this right now because it's the culture war du jour. Anyway, what do you think? I'd love to know. You can leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can email me daily at dollemore.com. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me. Mondays shouldn't be this angry, but here we are. Anyway, follow me on social media. I'd love to connect with you there. And if you get value from what I do, please consider supporting my work. You can click the join button below this video and become a channel member for fewer than $2 a month. Or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast and support my work there. Same rules apply for $2 a month. It's pretty good deal, I think. But, it benefits me if you do support my work. So anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I'd love to hear from you about this. Until I do see you, be genuine. Take care of one another.